that Israel is in violation of international law. I mean, I've literally devoted an entire page of content pulling up primary source documentation to support my thesis, which is really just the world consensus. Again, here, yeah, thank you, Conquer. The two-state solution is a damn lie and a meaningless term because it won't come about because the Zionists don't want that. It's obvious they're expelling 100% of them. Absolutely, Anita. Yeah, so you didn't watch any of my other videos. I mean, the thing is, like, it's a stream, okay? And I'm reacting. So, you know, I don't have, you know, an editor working for me where that can pull up all the things that I'm saying in, you know, in real time and throw them onto the stream, you know? So, like, I don't know what. Yeah, well, you know, exactly. It's like you wanted me to predict what everything this guy said. I mean, you're going to have to use your own critical thinking capabilities, and you've heard the arguments, okay? And you can follow up on those things. If you didn't see everything, you know, presented to you and gift wrapped for you in one video, then go take a look at some other videos where I do actually give you, you know, in-depth analysis and cite primary sources and show you the documents. But you know, you know, I think what you were expecting me to do was not the scope of the actual content, because it's a stream, okay? It's a stream, and I'm literally seeing this for the first time live, okay? So yes, I watched it for the. That's right. That's right. You're getting it, Adel Gaming. He's got it. He figured it out. He's like, oh, you're just watching things and reacting to them, and I'm expecting everybody around me to do the intellectual labor, which is hilarious. Like, I don't want to go find out the information myself. Well, I mean, you know, if you brought up a specific point, but you're being so vague, it's like, where do you begin, okay? All you're saying is, you didn't like my, you know, presentation or my react, which is fine. You don't have to like it, but if you're going to call me out on my analysis and you want to say that I didn't bring up any, you know, primary sources, well, tell me what talking point, what point specifically, and we can go through it. But you're not telling me any specific thing. You're just saying, I was just all vague. Well, you're being vague yourself, okay? I'm more than happy to. I mean, I spent my entire life at this point, every day of my life for the past 11 months, talking about the Palestinians. I've been reading whole ass entire books. Can you believe that, Adel Gaming? Can you imagine if you picked up a book and started reading the things that you would learn? Can you imagine? Yeah, okay, one example. Go on, give me one example. What would you like to know? God, I'm gonna fucking fall asleep. I'm waiting on him to fucking present me one point. I mean, yeah, it's just like this of all the things you want to come at me about travel Israel, dude, like, this guy is a complete joke. He's just like a psychopath. He's just a typical Zionist with just nothing but propaganda. When I was talking about using the money tunnels, you made it seem like this is a normal thing. But in reality, it's a means to. No, that's not true. Okay, so here's what you see. This is why this is great. I love that you wanted to talk about it. So he says, when you were talking about using the money tunnels, I don't know what you mean by money tunnels. I never used the expression money tunnels, so I don't know what that is. You made it seem like this is a normal thing. And I don't know what you mean by that, because no, of course, having a tunnel economy, which is what I think you actually meant, is not a normal thing. And that's the whole point. Why do they have to smuggle in most of the materials they need to have a society? And this is not coming from me, okay? Look at this. I cite this near. I mean, if you stay and you actually want to learn, I cite this information straight from Sarah Roy, The Gaza Strip: The Political Economy of De-Development, written by a Harvard economist who spent decades researching the Gazan economy and the rise of what she calls the tunnel economy, which was an informal economy, but became the most. Yeah, I know, books. Oh my God! TikTokers don't read books. Yeah. Yeah, they smuggle in cement. They smuggle. So this is what I mean. He was trying to say that. I don't even know what he's trying to say, but you're saying that. I don't remember the video specifically, but you're saying that. What about I want to go back to it. Money for tunnels. I don't know what that means either. What do you mean money for tunnels? Using the money for tunnels. You made it seem like this is a normal thing, but in reality, it's a means to import the weapons and hide hostages. That's not what I said. I said the tunnels themselves are used primarily to import things like food, clothing, construction materials. It's primarily, mostly used to import things that everyday citizens desperately need. Okay, especially a so-called sovereign people, like they are afforded their right to self-determine, at least in theory, but not in practice. These are things that they should be able to naturally have if they weren't being occupied, but they are. And so this is why it was pointed out. I mean, this is information, this isn't from like the Gazan Health Ministry, for example. This is information from the fucking World Bank, okay? This is information from, every relevant international institution that you can think. Yes, medicine as well. So, the point is that, yes, they now have a tunnel economy. And why do they have a tunnel economy? No, it's not a normal thing. They aren't using the tunnels for that. Okay, so you're now doing the thing that you are accusing me of. You're just going, source, trust me, bro. They're using the tunnels to bring weapons, escape, hide, and torture, kill hostages. So everything that the World Bank has studied, the UN, this is a typical Zionist, right? I'm presenting you with primary source evidence from all the relevant organizations you can think of about how the rise of the tunnel economy was, expanded and became more prevalent specifically because of Israel's mowing of the lawn, where they raided Gaza periodically over the years with these intense, high-tech, murderous bombing campaigns. They flatten the entire cities, and they force the civilians to go underground. And because of the presence of a devastating and very illegal, what it amounts to a war crime, a crime of aggression, a blockade, literally it's under siege. This 25-mile long by 5-mile wide strip of land is under siege. This is Bronze Age siege warfare that the Gazans are being subjected to. And this is what has created the rise of what Harvard economist Sarah Roy calls in her book the tunnel economy. Tunnels burrowing under the Gaza. Are you listening? Read, listen. Hear. At the very least, like expand your mind. Okay, actually take in information, assimilate that information with the old information that you knew and that you learned, and then see if you can arrive at something new. Okay, maybe you can, not be an insane person. And when you take on new information and are presented with facts, you can actually adjust and adopt new thinking and maybe some new conclusions. If you're a rational person, if you're a logical person, that's what you'll do. But something tells me that that's going to be hard for you. So tunnels burrowing under the Gaza-Egypt border have existed since the 1980s, but in the space of a few years, they mushroomed from a few dozen to about 500 on the eve of Operation Cast Lead, which was one of the worst war crime to happen in the Gaza Strip since up until that point in 2009. By 2012, estimates reached as high as 1,100 to 1,200 tunnels. So they had, some tunnels in the 80s, and after the imposition of the blockade in 2007, followed by the egregious war crimes carried out by the Israeli Defense Forces, the Diaper Forces, this noticeably created, predictably created the rise of more tunnels. And such growth is a direct consequence. Listen to this, okay? Such growth is a direct consequence of the blockade and has taken place largely at the expense of the formal private sector discussed above. Already by 2008, the World Bank was reporting a redistribution of wealth from the formal private sector toward informal black market operators. By the end of that year, the massive destruction wrought by Israel's Operation Cast Lead provided a further push to the tunnel economy as the massive reconstruction required materials barred entry by the blockade. The rise of the tunnels were almost entirely devoted, listen to this, to smuggling goods into Gaza. Exports were limited and included horses, scrap metal, excess aggregate, ammunition, and certain Israeli re-exports for which there was Egyptian demand. The tunnels allowed Gaza to circumvent the blockade and to a larger degree than expected, reduce dependence on Israel. So do you see what this person's doing? Totally oblivious, or at least negligent at best, of the fact that Israel has implemented an illegal blockade and siege of the Gaza Strip, which has barred entry for all of the most basic human survival needs that 2.3 or some or thereabouts need to survive. And then they're going to say, well, look at what they're doing. They're building tunnels. Yeah, motherfucker, that's what happens, okay? Don't occupy people's lands. Don't blockade their... I mean, you're just basically telling on us that you're a coward. You're an absolute coward because of the same social conditions were imposed upon you. You would just, lay down and die for state, right? Just die quietly. You wouldn't care that your family is starving. You wouldn't care that your neighborhoods have been demolished. No sense in all that. Just die for Israel. That's what you would do. So you're a brave soul. You're very courageous. You have, he's a rock. Stop wasting my time. It's fun though. I still like it. Yeah, keep licking that boot. They're building tunnels in order to live. And furthermore, okay, and I have to go back to this, okay? So the tunnels allowed Gaza to circumvent the blockade and to a larger degree than expected reduce dependence on Israel. Yeah, they didn't want to fucking depend on Israel. Remember, that's part of the political economy of de-development, is to externalize their economy from them. You want to integrate their economy into your economy because you want their land, their resources, and labor. Okay, you want to profit off that, and you also want to externalize their economy from them so that when they need something, they got to go to you to get it. And it's good old imperial logic. If you got your hand on the spigot, you can control countries, you can control what they do, how they behave politically. So you remember, these fuckers are die-hard Marxists. I mean, they understand dialectical materialism, they understand historical materialism, they know that people depend on resources. Nations cannot survive without oil. You need oil to run a country, and you need food to feed your people. And if you can control those two things, you can control the world. All right? So, by mid-2010, the tunnel trade supplied 90% of all construction materials, fuel, and appliances. So, speaking to that fact, this little wet chode in the chat wants to get us to believe that, the tunnels were used to smuggle weapons. Well, so the fuck what if they were? I hope they get more weapons, to be honest with you, because they've been denied having their own military, their own army, their own navy. They're a fucking country of themselves that are entitled to their territorial unit, and that's not happening. And they're being deprived of all types of infrastructure, including healthcare infrastructure, education infrastructure, and yes, military infrastructure. So of course, so they should just, I don't know, you expect of the Palestinians something so superhuman that you would not expect on your own, your own self or your family or your friends. I mean, you were an absolute hypocritical, just a spineless little worm, okay? Absolutely. And you should be shamed from the public space. Like, you should be shamed. Anytime you want to bring this rhetoric in the public domain, people should shame you for it, because this is Nazi shit. 90% of all construction materials, fuel, and appliances. 70% of all clothing. 70% of all clothing in the Gaza Strip has to be smuggled, and this is in 2010. That was when things weren't, I mean, it was after cast lead, but think of it now. Think of what's happening now. There's been more operations, obviously, since 2010. Way more. And the onslaught continues. But 70% of all clothing, 90% of all construction materials had to be smuggled into the country. So 60% of all food, 60%, the majority of food that gets into the Gaza Strip is smuggled in through tunnels. And this little chode licker wants to talk about smuggle. They're using it for their terror tunnels. Meanwhile, these people are living in the worst humanitarian crisis on earth. I mean, the fucking bravery and courage out of these losers is unbelievable. Okay? These people are starving to death. 60%, the majority of all food into the Gaza Strip, comes in through a tunnel. And this guy wants to fucking talk about smuggling rockets. Like, you were so delusional, okay? At best. 20% of the 60%, 20% of all the food that was smuggled in through the tunnels, which, as we just said, is the majority of the food going into the Gaza Strip, spoiled. 20% of it was spoiled by the time it actually got to where it needed to be. According to Nicholas Pelham, who has written extensively on the tunnel economy, in the late 1990s, quote, all but 1% of Gaza's total imports came from or via Israel. By the eve of Operation Cast Lead in December 2008, the ratio had nearly reversed. So now, what is he saying? Now 99%. It used to be that Gaza, 99% depended on Israel for its economy. And on the eve of Cast Lead in 2008, 99% of their economy was smuggled in through the tunnels. And that was the reversal. Israel's easing of the blockade in June 2010 did not appreciably harm the tunnel industry. When it became easier and cheaper to acquire certain commodities from Israel, tunnel owners simply diversified away from those consumer goods to construction materials and fuel. Huh, that's weird. Where's the terror rockets, though? I don't see where the... Shut the fuck up.
Nixon ordered Cambodian genocide. Clinton sent cruise missiles to Sudan, people died. Obama gave the orders to do drone strikes.